South Africa has started a new Ministry of Small Businesses, and who better to discuss that than British entrepreneur James Caan. He's created almost 20,000 businesses in just 2 years. We're going to talk to him about that in the second part of this double hit interview, if you like. But James, you're in South Africa again. I met you the last time you were here for a presentation at a conference. Is this a regular visit for you, or are you quite a newcomer to these shores?
I'm a newcomer, Alec, but I think it's fair to say I've fallen in love. I love this country. I think the drive, the passion, the motivation in South Africa to be in business, to be your own boss, to create your own business. I've never seen a country with so much zest, so much determination, and I would love to be able to do something in this country to replicate the model that we launched in England with startup loans, where we've started nearly 20,000 businesses. We're currently starting 41 businesses a day and literally creating thousands of jobs every month. And I've recognised that this is the most important thing that South Africa needs today, which is job creation. And I believe that the only way really that you can achieve that is through SMEs, is through backing businesses, backing entrepreneurs. And that's really why I'm here again, because I'm exploring what is the best way to be able to achieve that program in South Africa.
Are you getting to talk to the right people? I ask this because the National Development Plan, that's our blueprint for the future, is all predicated on creating small businesses. They are the ones that are going to create the jobs. Have you managed to link up with government people?
I've met a number of different people, both in government and the private sector. And what I've seen, Alec, is there are a number of initiatives that have been tried before, but sadly, I don't think with a great deal of success. There's a number of programs that are currently in existence today, both private and public sector initiatives, but all of these projects that I've seen are quite small. They're not really at the scale that this country needs, and I think what this country absolutely needs is a program that can achieve the scale that will address the problem. Because having pockets of 100 here or 500 jobs here or 400 businesses is great, and it's important.
It's like we're playing there.
But we really are playing. What we need is something that's transformational. And that's what I have to give credit to the UK government for recognising, that despite the strength of our economy in England, but we are still looking ahead and saying it's not enough, because we've got to keep our job creation going. We need to keep our people in work. And the one thing we've learned, and history has taught us, is when we have people out of work, they get desperate. It creates social unrest. There are many other connotations around unemployment other than just the economy. So I think sensible governments, responsible governments, need to focus and make it a priority. And I think South Africa, more than any other country, this is a big issue. It is the elephant in the room, and I think it's high time that that elephant came out of the room and came on the discussion desk.
The British government set up £100 million, so nearly 2 billion rand, and put that into a pool where they asked you to get involved.
And I think the key interesting lesson there, I thought, was their understanding and recognition that one of the important lessons to learn is that even the UK had created a number of initiatives and a number of different projects where they tried to address this problem. But inevitably, it was either run by a corporate, or run by a civil servant, or run by a banker. I think what the British government recognised, that entrepreneurship is not easy. Business, or creating businesses, is not easy. And who better than somebody who understands and has the DNA and the history of business to be able to run an organisation like that. So actually picking somebody from the private sector, from the entrepreneurial community, because we knew that a lot of these businesses were going to fail. So what we were trying to do is have somebody who could manage that failure better. And I don't think a civil servant probably is the right person, and frankly nor a banker, because business is not just about numbers. It's about people, it's about issues, it's about challenges. So I think for the UK government, to put an entrepreneur to head such an initiative, I don't think it's coincidental that the program's been so successful.
Why you? Why did they come to you?
I think that, number one, I think not only do I'm kind of a living proof and an example of somebody who's built a business from scratch, who's grown a business, you know, I've created in my own private business, you know, we employ just over 1,000 people, and I set that business up from scratch only 7 years ago. So for a business to have started that over 7 years has now got over 1,000 employees, we're generating just over 500 million sterling in revenues, you know, is a clear track record of I kind of know what I'm doing. Prior to that, I set up another business from scratch, you know, from an idea, created a name, created a brand, and built a business.
You started on your own, literally.
Literally on my own.
Mr. One Alone.
Yeah, with a little tiny office, with no windows, one desk, the yellow pages and a phone, and built that into a global business that today is the world's most successful human capital business. It's a human resources business that was sold 2 months ago for £260 million. And then I created another business where we had 147 offices in 30 countries. Then I wrote the best-selling book, Start Your Own Business in 7 Days. You know, I have an app, a business app, which is James Caan's Business Secrets, which currently is the most successful business app in the world.
But there are lots of people who've been successful in business. There's not everyone who's prepared to give, who's prepared to get involved to the degree, because presumably you aren't making money out of all of this. You've got enough money already. This is something else that's motivating you.
It is, and for me, the excitement when I was approached, I mean, I had to give up, you know, 2 years of my life, because starting an organisation from scratch, only I know that's not easy. So, you know, to have 2 billion rand, you know, I've got to create an organisation, I've got to create an infrastructure, I have to hire people, I need a brand, I need marketing, I need a website.
And it's the public's money. So
it's the public's money.
Have other
responsibilities,
yeah,
and accountability. So to create an organisation, Startup Loans today, we employ 46 full-time employees. You know, we have a responsibility, we have an accounting function, we have to, you know, deploy the capital, we have to return the capital, we have to find the entrepreneurs, we have to find the mentors. You know, when you're starting literally 19,500 businesses, that's a big business. Now, to create that from scratch literally meant I had to give up a huge amount of my own time. And you're right, you know, and it wasn't, I wasn't being paid, I received no benefits from it, I'm not paid, I don't get fees or anything, I don't invest in any of the businesses. So literally my motivation was simply that I'd been successful in my own business, and I was fortunate and privileged that my business had done very well, but here was my opportunity to give something back. You know, and a lot of people, when I, you know, spoke to friends of mine and people I knew and said, you know, I'm about to embark on this journey, everybody said to me, but James, it's not your responsibility. That's the government's job to do that. Why are you, you know, you're doing really well, you've got this amazing business, you're really successful, you know, what's in it for you? And it made me remember, you know, one of the statements that Jack Kennedy made, you know, it's not what your country can do for you, but it's what you can do for your country. And for me, there's a very powerful words there. I think more entrepreneurs, you know, we have a responsibility, we have an obligation of giving something back, and it was my chance and my opportunity to do that, and I wasn't going to let it go.
We're going to pick up on that part of the program in just a moment. I'd like to find out from James whether he thinks what he's built in the UK can travel, and more particularly, can it travel to South Africa. More James Caan and Power Lunch after the break. As promised, we are in conversation with James Caan. If you consider where South Africa is heading into the future, the National Development Plan says we can thrive by the year 2030. Well, that's the target anyway, and we'll do so on the back of small business. But the development of small business is proving to be a lot more difficult than just having a few words about it. James Caan has been there, done that, both himself as an entrepreneur and in fact driving the development of entrepreneurship within the UK. James, before the break we were talking about what you've put together, almost 2 billion rand that the UK government has put aside. You're not being paid for it, but you're driving the process. It's created nearly 20,000 businesses along the way, and it's been hugely successful in that regard. Can it travel? Could something like what you've learnt, the lessons you have there, be imposed in South Africa?
Absolutely, Alec, without question of doubt, because the commonality between both our countries is job creation is at the forefront of the responsibility of both our governments, and it's not a choice. There are no other options. If we do not create sustainable jobs for our economies, then both our economies, frankly, will fail.
But entrepreneurs in the UK, entrepreneurs in Africa, do they think the same way?
An entrepreneur anywhere in the world is still an entrepreneur. And the good thing is, I don't think it's any easier. I mean, one of the businesses that I built was a business called Humana International. We had 147 offices in 30 countries around the world. And Alec, doing business all over the world, you need a customer who's got to pay you, you need a product, you need to deliver it, you've got to get up in the morning and you've got to work. You know, there are no free lunches. So could it work in South Africa? Absolutely. You know, the commonality...
What does it need to work here? Because you've had, in the UK, you have almost a direct line to the Prime Minister.
Well, what that really illustrates, Alec, is the importance that the UK government have put on this initiative. They recognise that in terms of giving this visibility, you're absolutely right, the Prime Minister is directly interested in this scheme. You know, and I see him on a regular basis to report and update because he genuinely cares. The scheme itself reports to Lord Young, who's one of the most senior government people that I've known. He's been in government for 30 years. He's the advisor to the Prime Minister. He sits in 10 Downing Street. I meet with Lord Young once a month. He wants to know statistics. What are we doing? How's it going? What are the problems? What are the challenges? Has a personal direct interest in it. The Secretary of State for Business, Vince Cable, has a direct interest in the scheme. The opposition government, Chaka Uma, who's the Shadow Business Secretary, directly has an interest in the scheme. So across parties, across all three parties, I meet with each of the kind of senior officials within government who directly have an interest in what's going on. That is the importance that the UK government has put on this initiative. Even down to Buckingham Palace, Prince Andrew hosted an event for startup loans to show their support on the importance of entrepreneurship and job creation. So what that's really illustrated is to make it happen, you know, it can't be woolly. It can't be an afterthought. It's got to be committed, it has to be serious, but it's got to have the backing of the right people behind it.
If you wanted to make it not happen, if you wanted it to fail, invert it a little bit, would you maybe take a James Caan, give them the £100 million and then get him to report in a junior ministry, put blockages between him and the people at the top, have it as an afterthought?
I mean, you know, even in the UK, Alec, I can tell you that anything that could have gone wrong with this scheme did go wrong. Did we have problems within government? Yes, we did. Did we have real challenges in the way and the speed in which businesses were started? Absolutely. You know, was the bureaucracy a nightmare? Yes, it was. Was finding the right people in order to create the organisation a challenge? Absolutely. So everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. Were we able to track thousands of entrepreneurs using a manual system? No, we couldn't. Did we have to build technology to be able to manage the transparency and the corporate governance, you know, using, you know, really state-of-the-art systems and procedures? Yes, we did. So unless you have the right people behind this, it is doomed to fail anyway. And history shows us in both governments that there have been many schemes of this nature, but just by having an idea or a scheme does not mean it works. You have to have the right people on both sides of the table, the people running the scheme, but also the people responsible. So within government, if it doesn't have the ear of the right people, those blockages become impossible to deal with.
There appears to be the political will in South Africa, so I hope you get to the right people in the near future. But people sitting at home now, say an unemployed guy who's saying, yeah, this Mr. Caan, how can he teach me? What can I do? Where can I start to have my own business? Or alternatively, somebody who's in a trading room, hates his boss, hates his job, hates what he's doing, wants to break out on his own. Is there any pithy words of wisdom that you could motivate them with?
Well, I mean, there's no question that's how businesses are started. You know, businesses are started because an individual creates a desire and a need, something that he believes that he can achieve or do. So, you know, if you're that person sitting at home unemployed, you know, success is not going to come to you. You're going to have to go out and make it happen yourself. There are no shortcuts to being successful as an entrepreneur. So firstly, do you have a compelling proposition? And the one lesson I've learned, Alec, is when you're in business, you don't necessarily have to create or invent the next best thing. Using technology today, businesses are created and built that take an existing idea and do it cheaper, faster, quicker. So actually, you're surrounded by ideas and initiatives where if you've got that innovative mindset of saying, could I do something that will make a difference? because that's what works in business. So if you look at the airline industry as an example, take EasyJet, one of the biggest airline businesses in the UK. What did he actually invent? What was his eureka moment? Was it the aeroplane? Was it travel? No, it was simply he sat in a plane and realized that so many planes run half empty. What could I do by using technology to make it more efficient? So what he's got is an algorithm that calculates pricing of air travel. So if there's a lot of demand, the price goes up. If there's no demand, literally you can buy a ticket for £10, but at least the seat's not empty. So you never ever sit on an EasyJet plane that's empty. So what he did was said, I could do that more efficiently. So I think if you're the entrepreneur sitting at home, what could you do that can make a difference? And it doesn't have to be innovating something new. If you're the guy sitting in an office and saying, this is really not for me, how can you use your knowledge and your expertise in creating something that I think is win-win, where you've got a proposition that works for the client but works for you too? How can you make something that bridges those two gaps? Because business is not just about winning for you, but it's also making sure that it wins for the customer. So to me, when I see people say, yeah, but you've got to be really ruthless, James, to be in business, actually, no, you don't. What you have to be is fair, because business is about sustainability. Business is built on relationships, not on transactions.
James, it's been lovely chatting again. James Caan is a British entrepreneur. Lots of insights there for pretty much everyone, not just those of you who are thinking of going into entrepreneurship, but the new South African Ministry for Small Business. I'm sure could pick up quite a few tips from what Mr. Caan had to say.